protocol, I've watched a lot of your videos on this. You've gone into tremendous depth about the blueprint, which I assume is the blueprint on how to live in a way that slows down aging and possibly at some point will reverse it. But what is the protocol?
If you can measure every organ of the body and let the organ speak about what it wants to be in an ideal state, reference gold standard scientific evidence, and then create a protocol and then have perfect adherence, you create a system where the body can maintain itself in an optimal state. And this is in contrast to typically we approach things in life where we think our brain is the primary tool which solves all problems before us. Well, my brain, as most brains do, is a cause of a lot of self-destructive behavior. We are prone to eat too much food or of the wrong kind of food or drink or other substances or spend too much time consuming content, not prioritizing sleep. And so the solution for me was to remove my mind as a problem-solving tool, empower my body by measurement through my entire body, and then looking at the evidence. And so letting my body solve its own problems of how to be in the ideal state is the protocol.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I quit on my business partner. I struggled to keep going. I was making $300 a month and felt like a complete failure. And the thing that saved me, that pulled me up, was studying the stories of famous entrepreneurs. I got the motivation from them. I also got the strategies of what to do next so that I can go off and achieve my dreams. And quite honestly, I still need the stories today myself to continue my motivation to take it to the next level. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Bryan Johnson, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
And so I just simply follow the data. And so we look at all the things you would imagine, like blood, stool, urine, saliva, MRI, ultrasound, fitness tests, DNA methylation, microbiome, everything we can measure, we measure. And we take all that data, we look at the evidence, and then we just do this again and again. And so my responsibility in this is to ensure perfect adherence to the protocol, and we can see how these things work in an iterative basis.
I heard you say that sleep and diet are probably the two most important things. Is that a true assessment given all the data you've looked at now?
It's difficult to make too strong of statements about power laws in the entirety because most people reasonably look at this and they see that it's not doable for the average person.
Yeah, and watching your protocol, I will say that like I've got the resources to pull it off. I've even got the discipline, but I was like, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So especially the part about needles in the face. That's where I was like, oh God.
Those hurt.
So we'll get to that in a minute. But so, okay, it's hard to break down the power law.
Your point is correct. If you're going to get just a few things right, sleep, I'd say stop self-destructive behavior and get good sleep. Like you don't even have to eat vegetables, berries, and nuts. Like that would be an advanced thing. Just stop doing things that hurt you, because when you do things that cause self-destructive behavior, it's so hard that ruins your sleep, which then ruins your willpower to be able to do good things. It's just a vicious cycle. So sleep well, stop bad behaviors, and it gets you in a neutral position to feel like you can start doing some positive things in your life and gain some momentum. It's ironically, it's a lot of people. We all know this. If we go to the gym and work out, we feel good about ourselves, and later in the day we want to reward ourselves. And sometimes we reward ourselves in a way that offsets what happened in the beginning of the good thing. So really, the root of it is trying to get at this self-destructive tendencies we have.
Rule number 2 is get enough rest.
Can you maybe elaborate on the sleep thing? Why is sleep so important? And why, presumably, what does good sleep mean to you?
I think sleep is a contender for being the most powerful health intervention in existence. It's a contender. I mean, it's magical what it does if you're well rested and what your body can do. And I mean, for example, I know when I eat close to my bedtime, and I've done a systematic study for years, looking at like 15-minute increments on time of day on where I eat my last meal, my willpower is directly correlated to the amount of deep sleep I get. So my ability to not binge eat at night when Rascal Brian's out and about is based upon how much deep sleep I got the night before.
Yeah.
And so
there's a lot to that. Yeah.
And so I've seen it manifest itself. And so I think the way I'd summarize this is, in society, we've had this myth of, we tell stories, for example, of entrepreneurship, where this person was so amazing, they stayed at the office for 3 days and slept under their desk.
Yeah.
And we say, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And now I think we're headed towards a state where we'd say that's primitive and really not a good idea on every level. And so the new mythology is going to be the exact opposite.
Rule number 3 is understand the brain.
Technology is here to eat us, and it's going to be a negative consequence. My question to you is, like, why do you think that is the case? Why do we think the worst about technology, and why has that been programmed into us when it also could be the complete opposite? And some may argue that it has been the complete opposite in the last 100 or 1,000 years.
Reflecting back on as what I've learned in life, I would say that, it's a roundabout way to get to your question. When I was in my early 20s, I started reading a lot of behavioral economics, and specifically learning how flawed my mind is. I learned that I had over 188 cognitive biases, so distortions of reality that my brain actively makes on a daily basis, and I'm oblivious to it. I wasn't aware. Prior to reading this literature, I had this default assumption that I was rational and consistent, and I could see other people's flaws, that I was the one that was coherently understanding the world. And when I started poking into this material and I realized how flawed my cognition was, and even my internal dialogues, it fundamentally changed how I understand myself and the world. And so every thought that landed into my brain, I didn't treat it as right. I treated it as, oh, interesting. Let's see what you've delivered up, and how many biases are attached to this thing. And so when you pose the question of, why would media take a topic like artificial intelligence and create these narratives, and why would people respond that way, and then why are these things forming? To me, the most beneficial thing to do is to understand it as what's happening in individual minds, what's happening in collective minds, which systems are producing it, and why it's interesting. And so, in short, instead of listening to what they're saying, to dissect the systems that are creating those things, to see behind the curtain. Oftentimes, it's not interesting to hear what someone has to say. It's interesting to understand why they say it.
Rule number 4 is be responsible.
I'm trying to imagine a kid growing up somewhat impoverished. Mm-hmm. Did that give you a scarcity mindset? Were you thinking like, oh, making money is hard? And then what was it about that experience that was so transformative that it shakes everything?
I was taught to be a responsible child, a responsible person in society. And so, for example, when my parents split, my mom was a single mother with 5 kids. We didn't have money. So, you mentioned she made clothes for me to go to school. And when I was at school, I figured out that I could buy a day-old croissant for 10 cents if post-lunch. And so what I'd do, I made a deal with the lunch lady where I would clean the tables, then pay 10 cents and get this croissant. And then I didn't have to cash my mom's check that she'd written for $25 for my monthly fee to save for the $25 a month. Wow. So I did this for a month or two. My mom finally found out, and I think she was partly embarrassed, like, my child is not eating lunch at school, and everyone thinks there's something wrong with the family. But to me, that just made sense, that it was that's the way I could contribute to my family, is save my mom $25 a month in my lunch fee at school. And I guess I've always felt that sense of responsibility, which my parents did a nice job of teaching me that.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is have financial goals.
You said earlier, I wanted to make a certain amount of money by age 30. What was your number? What was your target?
Well, on the lower end, it was $7 million. I had built out my spreadsheet model and assumed a certain rate of interest and basically said, if I make a certain amount of money, this is an annuity that will be good enough for my entire life, assuming I don't need capital to do anything. And just if it's time, like if I'm riding or something. Then if I do something in the world, I had mapped out something like 150 to 300 million as a basis that would get me started on that path.
When you sold when you were 34, right?
Yes.
And what were you able to walk away with? Were you able to hit the north end of your target?
Yeah, I hit 300 million.
What is that? You're a religious farm kid who doesn't know much, and then in a matter of 11 or 12 years, you're able to walk away with, north of $300 million. What does that feel like? And what do you do with that money once it hits your account?
You don't seem like a victory dance kind of guy.
Wait a second.
But true.
That's true. That's true. That's true. That is very true. It's sobering because it's bigger than what you realize, but you don't know in what ways. And so it wasn't the case that I had a long list of things I wanted to buy that were just waiting for this cash to come in. I don't think I've spent any money for a long time. And I think now looking back now, even my most aggressive expectations on how life would change weren't even close to how significantly my reality would change over the years with that event.
Rule number 6 is make an impact.
I think as a species, I think we're teenagers. I think that the decisions we make in the next 20 years, 20, 30 years, are going to have enduring consequences of the sort that previous decisions did not. We need to figure out as a species what we do with ourselves. We need to figure out how to co-evolve with AI. We need to figure out how the problems that could threaten our extinction won't extinct us. We need to figure out how to avoid an anarchic society. We need to figure out how to avoid a dystopic society. We need to do all this in a span of, say, a couple decades. And I currently don't think as a society we have the literacy to do that. And so what I hope is that more people will sign up to become future literate in all its various forms, and that we collectively acknowledge the importance of our time. Because I think if we don't, we are going to be blindsided. And it's going to be painful and regretful if we lose our chance, because we can build an existence that's remarkable, beyond anything any of us could imagine. I'm convinced of it. And I hope that enough people will rally behind that in all their different forms, and that we have sufficient momentum to do it. So I hope I can be a part of that group.
Rule number 7 is learn about AI.
You have made a deity of data. And I think inside of all of us, there is a God-shaped hole. It has not played out as a religion in my life, not since I was a teenager. I don't know. I know that you were brought up deeply religious, whether, I don't know if that echoed as an adult or not, but does that sound right, or am I missing something?
I would use an example. A few years ago, I was in the Middle East with a country leader, and he offered up his country's 2030 plans. And this was in 2017, I believe. And I said, that's fascinating that you would be planning 13 years in advance. At the time, I was deeply involved in my venture investing in synthetic biology, nanotech, computational therapeutics. So I knew from the trenches what was going on in those worlds, from machine learning and AI through the biology. And I said, how do you think you can possibly plan that far in advance? And he said, how would you think about it? Just as a playful gesture. And I said, okay, let's play a game. we have two robots. And the goal is to get the robot to the furthest sand dune on the horizon. We can barely see it. We can do one of two things. One is we can take a topographical map of the sand dunes, program the map into the robot and say, go robot to that sand dune. Now we know what's going to happen. In a few minutes, it's going to be stuck in the sand because the sands are going to shift. The map is going to change. The other thing we do is we say, okay, robot, we're going to give you the tools to navigate the sand no matter what happens. So as the landscape changes, as we know it will, it navigates its way to these endpoints. And so all you have to do is point in a general direction. And that's really what this entire thing is with Blueprint, is I've basically just said, my body is a system with tools to navigate terrain as it moves along. So measurement, science, protocol. Now the science is going to get better, the measurement's going to get better, and it just improves again and again and again. But my body is not subject to the same problems of self-destructive behavior where it can't move forward. I've tried to put my body in a position where it can have compounded gains. So as technology improves, my body improves at the same rate of the technology. And in this case, it's slowing my rate of aging and reversing the aging that's happened. Now, there may be chances where we start talking about enhancement, where we build technologies in society. But if we start thinking about ourselves that we really care to go together to this distant point on the horizon, we want systems that allow us to move through changing terrain. What we don't want are these maps that assume certain things. And so this is the zeroth principle thinking. So when you say a god of data, I would say, to me, this is a philosophy of zeroism.
You're gonna have to tell people what that means.
So the idea is talent hits the target that no one else can. Genius hits the target no one can see.
Rule number 8 is exercise.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. Every day, some days I wake up and I look, I know this entire list and I think, oof. But I do it every single day, no matter what.
And again, you've been doing this for a long time now. Strength training, not something, we're not saying it's something, there's a guideline for building up strength training. It's not just let you jump straight into this relatively extreme protocol.
Yeah, we're also doing a lot of the measurements. We're looking at my whole body measurement of muscle and tendons and ligaments with MRI and ultrasound. So we're able to quantify dietary intake, fitness routines, and the effect it has across the entire body.
Tendon age, ligament age, joint capsule age, cartilage age, muscle age, across the whole body.
So I'm pausing here because the expert we found, when we found my jugular vein stenosis, a primary problem was I had bad posture. So I had my chin out and like my neck jugged like this. And so I became obsessive about my posture during this process. I still obsess daily about my posture. I probably think about it 40 times a day, more, but always trying to be in a perfect posture, like imagine a string above my head and pulling me straight up. And so this is one of the PT exercises he has. So elbows straight back and then moving my shoulders forward, which builds the muscles that I need to keep my neck in the right posture.
And it's worked. Crazy.
It's amazing. It's unbelievable. And we had
avoided skull-based surgery.
So that was such a scary situation. We talked to 2 world-leading experts that do the surgery. So they go in on the side of the neck, which is really complicated because you've got so much happening in your neck with nerves and muscles, and then they shave down the bone, the styloid process, to try to eliminate this narrowing of the jugular vein. And this expert we had was like, actually, we were talking to him about this, but he's like, you could also make significant progress with this PT. And so we've been working on this now. We
saw the study where they'd done the surgery and there was no improvement in clinical outcomes. So it's like, what the hell? Pretty worrying.
3 people in 22 who received the surgery had sustained benefit. Everyone else. And our experts said, of course, because it's a postural problem fundamentally, you've got Eagle syndrome and other stuff where people, you've got other structural problems. But interestingly, we did with our new Epic 5 ultrasound machine, the medical grade, hospital grade machine, we looked at my jugular veins last week And it's night and day difference. Before, you could barely see flow in some postural positions, like when I was laying down. But now when we did it, you have
volume flow rates.
Yeah, it was amazing to see the flow. How exciting.
Rule number 9 is take advice properly.
Is there advice you can give to young people today that look at your story that's successful in many dimensions? Advice you can give to them about how to be successful in their career, successful in life, whatever path they choose?
Yes, I would say listen to advice and see it for what it is, a mirror of that person, and then map and know that your future is going to be in a zeroth principle land. And so what you're hearing today is a representation of what may have been the right principles to build upon previously, but they're likely depreciating very fast. And so I am a strong proponent that people ask for advice, but they don't take advice.
So how do you take advice properly?
It's in the careful examination of the advice. It's actually the person makes a statement about a given thing somebody should follow. The value is not doing that. The value is understanding the assumption stack they built, the assumption and knowledge stack they built around that body of knowledge. That's the value. It's not doing what they say.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is build a healthy lifestyle.
A few years ago, I started going to bed early, like 8:30 p.m. And my friends would oftentimes make fun of me. Like,
I remember being at a dinner with you at your home and we had to end pretty early just because of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I started thinking through, like, how could I make this socially acceptable? And I started to explain, like, I take my job as an entrepreneur seriously. I want to be in great condition. I want to be emotionally stable. I want to be able to make good decisions. I don't want to treat other people I don't want to be irritable with other people. Like, I want to be in a positive emotional and physical state. And so I take my lifestyle very seriously, almost like a professional athlete. And so as I started working more on Blueprint and my protocol started getting a bit more robust, I started playing with this concept. Let me show you this screen here, this image. Yeah, I started playing around with this idea of, if there was such a thing as being a professional rejuvenation athlete, what would it look like? Like, we know what a professional basketball player's training regimen looks like, and we know this general profile. But when you think about people who are looking at their life as a office worker or something else, we don't really think about our lives in terms of us being athletes or professional athletes. And so if we try to say that we're maintaining some kind of protocol, then people around us typically bucket it like, oh, that's a healthy person or that's a blank person. There's not really a good category, and it creates this social friction. And so I've been playing with this idea of, if, like, we were to say we are at a point in time with the science of rejuvenation, that one could take it seriously and there could actually be a path for rejuvenation Olympics. What would a person's daily protocol look like? And so this is just a sampling of, you can see through images, all the stuff we do, but we're looking at every organ of the body. We use evidence-only backed protocols. So we don't do a trendy thing. It's got to be by gold standard scientific evidence, and it's got to be through clinical guidelines. Sustainability on Earth and the emergence of AI, they're big problems that very few people can do meaningful things about. All right, you can recycle your Amazon boxes, and I don't know, like, they're very hard things to do. And so that's why starting with self is the baby step that everybody can take, where it's a little bit of control of identifying that everybody has a role to play in this, and that even though it seems non-intuitive that you would fix something within yourself to address an outside problem, that's the baby step. And so to me, it's adopting a new way of being, to acknowledge that letting our minds do whatever they want, whenever they want, is not good for ourselves, it's not good for the planet, and it's not good for our future. and that a new way of being, for example, of empowering all the organs of your body and trying to achieve goal alignment within self is a new way of being. And so if you map this out, like here's where I think we're going. If you map this out in the near future, I think what the world looks like is a giant computational model of goal alignment with trillions of computations happening every second within self, between each other, with the planet, and with AI. Trillions of agents of intelligence. And it's one big tapestry of intelligence goal aligning all the time. So in the same way that my body is doing this right now as we speak. Like there's breakages in my biology, there's repair happening, there's antioxidants, and there's inflammation, and there's all these different things happening, and my body's trying to steady itself. It's doing its own goal alignment algorithm, and I'm trying to help it so it can align itself to its optimal state. And you and I in this conversation are doing this dance of trying to goal align on, we're talking about certain ideas. And the same thing applies with our machines and with Earth. And so it's this new way of understanding ourselves that it's not our mind's every whim which we should be paying attention to. And these are the things that are causing so many of the problems in the world, all of our heated debates and the acrimony and the tribalism. It's allowing our knee-jerk reactions to rule everything. It's how we opened up this conversation. You drop a topic in, everybody breaks out into their tribes, they put their war paint on, and they start hammering away at each other. And it's just like, no one's winning in that situation. Everyone's, dug in. So to me, it's a new belief system on how we build ourselves, how we are immersed within the tapestry of everything else, all intelligent agents. And so again, it's a little bit of an indirect answer, and these are big ideas that are hard to understand. But I think that's the kind of jump that is relevant for us to consider as what is the future of being human. Because right now it's a little, I'm not sure our current approach at trying to tackle these problems is equal to what we need to bring to the table in order to solve them in a wise way.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Elon Musk, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Go do it. Just go out there and do it. The biggest thing I think people fail to do is that they're too afraid to try things.